I don't want to hurt your negotiation. If they're not back by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East. And it will not be good for Hamas, and it will not be good, frankly, for anyone.
The Middle East, a region already fraught with complexities and historical tensions, has been thrust into yet another moment of high drama and potential peril following the remarks of U.S. President-elect Donald Trump. In a strongly worded statement delivered during a press conference earlier today, Trump issued an ultimatum to the Palestinian group Hamas, demanding the immediate release of hostages taken during a series of escalations in 2023. The president-elect set a hard deadline of January 20th, the day he is set to assume office, warning that failure to comply would trigger severe repercussions. All hell will break out, Trump declared, his words reverberating far beyond the confines of the press room. His stark warning signals not just a potential shift in U.S. foreign policy but also raises the specter of intensified conflict in a region that has already endured decades of strife. Trump's rhetoric represents a sharp departure from the more cautious approach of his predecessor. His ultimatum, characterized by its bluntness and absence of diplomatic hedging, has sent ripples through international political circles, with analysts scrambling to decipher the broader implications. For Trump, this marks a defining moment even before he formally assumes the mantle of leadership. By staking his claim with such forceful language, he has signaled that his administration will prioritize what he perceives as U.S. interests and those of its allies, particularly Israel, over the more nuanced diplomatic overtures that have characterized recent years. The situation traces its roots to a prolonged period of tension and violence. The hostages in question include foreign nationals and Israeli citizens, whose captivity has become a grim symbol of the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict. These individuals were taken during a series of escalations that began in 2023, a year marked by heightened confrontations between Israel and Hamas. Hamas, the de facto governing authority in Gaza, has justified its actions by pointing to Israel's military operations in Palestinian territories and the enduring blockade on Gaza, which has left the region in a state of humanitarian crisis. For Israel, however, these actions represent an unacceptable threat to its citizens and sovereignty. Trump's ultimatum is not merely a demand directed at Hamas. It also serves as an implicit challenge to Iran, the Palestinian group's principal patron. Iran's involvement in the region's conflicts has long been a point of contention, particularly for the United States and Israel. Tehran's financial and logistical support for Hamas has allowed the group to maintain its operations despite international sanctions and economic isolation. Trump's remarks today underscore his administration's intent to adopt a hardline stance against what he views as Iranian aggression. This approach aligns with his campaign rhetoric, which often emphasized a zero-tolerance policy for entities perceived as hostile to U.S. interests. In his press conference, Trump stopped short of outlining specific actions should Hamas fail to meet his demands. However, he hinted strongly at the possibility of military intervention. "We are prepared to take actions that will ensure the safety and freedom of the hostages," he stated. "The world will see the consequences if Hamas does not comply." These words have been widely interpreted as an indication of potential airstrikes or other military measures targeting Hamas-controlled areas in Gaza. Such actions would mark a significant escalation in the conflict and could provoke a broader regional confrontation. The prospect of military action has elicited mixed reactions from experts and policymakers. Some analysts argue that Trump's direct approach could coerce Hamas into compliance, thereby resolving the immediate crisis. Dr. Rachel Steinberg, a Middle East policy expert at Georgetown University, remarked, "This ultimatum may create enough pressure on Hamas to compel them to release the hostages. However, it also carries significant risks. If Hamas perceives that they have nothing to lose, they may escalate their actions, leading to a dangerous spiral of violence." Others caution that Trump's rhetoric may exacerbate an already volatile situation. By framing his ultimatum in stark, uncompromising terms, the president-elect risks alienating potential allies and inflaming anti-American sentiment in the region. "This is not just about Hamas," said Professor Omar Rahim, a political scientist specializing in Middle Eastern affairs. Trump's words are being heard by Iran, by Hezbollah, and by other actors in the region. The message they take away could determine whether this crisis expands beyond Gaza. Iran's response to Trump's ultimatum will be a critical factor in the coming days. As Hamas's primary ally, Tehran has a vested interest in the outcome of this standoff. Iranian officials have consistently denied direct involvement in the hostage situation, framing their support for Hamas as part of a broader resistance to Israeli occupation. However, Trump's pointed remarks are likely to strain U.S.-Iran relations, which were already fraught following the U.S.'s withdrawal from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, commonly known as the Iran nuclear deal. Israeli officials, on the other hand, have welcomed Trump's stance, viewing it as a reaffirmation of the United States' commitment to their security. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in a televised address, expressed gratitude for Trump's strong words. "This is a critical moment for the security of Israel and the region," Netanyahu stated. "We trust that the United States, under President Trump, will act decisively to counter these threats." Netanyahu's remarks underscore the high stakes for Israel, which has long relied on U.S. support to maintain its security amid a hostile regional environment. The international community has responded to Trump's ultimatum with a mix of caution and concern. The United Nations has called for restraint, urging all parties to avoid actions that could lead to further violence. In a statement issued by the UN Secretary-General, the global body emphasized the importance of dialogue and humanitarian considerations, particularly given the dire conditions in Gaza. "The situation in Gaza is already one of the world's most pressing humanitarian crises," the statement read. "Any escalation would have catastrophic consequences for civilians on both sides." On the ground, the atmosphere in Gaza is tense. Reports indicate that Hamas has heightened security measures, with checkpoints and patrols intensifying across the territory. Civilians, already grappling with the hardships of blockade-induced shortages, now face the added fear of potential military escalation. Humanitarian organizations operating in the region have voiced alarm over the potential impact of renewed conflict, warning that the already strained resources could be overwhelmed by a fresh wave of violence. As the January 20th deadline approaches, the world watches with bated breath. The stakes extend far beyond the immediate crisis, encompassing broader questions about the direction of U.S. foreign policy, the future of Israeli-Palestinian relations, and the role of regional powers like Iran. Trump's ultimatum has set the stage for a critical turning point, one that could redefine the Middle East's trajectory for years to come. Whether Hamas will yield to the pressure or choose to defy the United States remains to be seen. What is certain, however,